Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 644th PMAP General Membership Meeting. Please rise for the invocation, National Anthem, and PMAP hymn.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Please be seated. May we call on stage PMAP President Jerry A. Plana, DPM, to open the 644th General Membership Meeting and deliver his President's Report.
I now declare the 644th General Membership Meeting open. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a few minutes to share with you some of the activities that your organization has been undertaking in the last month. Although rest assured that the 22 committees that we have are in full action. They're doing their own parts. I just want to highlight a few of them so that you may know about them. First of all, let's talk about the JPMAP. Recently, the Junior PMAP held two big occasions. One was the National Convention. I think it was the 18th National Convention of JPMAP. This was held in the Ongpin area in Ramada Hotel. This was attended by about 206 young delegates all over the country. I think this was a good number compared to the historical numbers of this organization. Another great event that happened in JPMAP was in Bulacan. The JPMAP Bulacan held its own youth summit. It had about 1,000 students in attendance. So these are two big events that happened in JPMAP, and thanks to Secretary Leo and his team, Jason Horka, for having taken care of these two big events. No, Leo, thank you very much. The other event that's worth remembering, as far as March is concerned, was sometime in March 6. We had the first CEO CHRO breakfast meeting. For your information, this was attended by about 38 people. 18 CEOs, I'd like to repeat, 18 CEOs, 12 CHROs, and about 8 C-level executives. It was a great start because what we wanted to do here was start an ongoing conversation between CHRO and CEOs about topics that are of mutual interest. The first topic we had here was about strategy and execution. One of the things we found out here was HR pala is also a CEO. HR is the Chief Execution Officer. Okay, because I think that's an area, when we talk about people and getting things done through people, it's really all about execution, isn't it? So we can be called CEO. I'm just hoping that moving forward, we can have more CEOs involved. It was a great discussion. We had 2 hours of intense discussion about this subject. The other thing that's happening here is there's a lot of activity in the chapter level. This is what PMAP president usually does at the first part of the year. We have 29 chapters, by the way. For those of you who don't know our number of chapters, we have 29. A few of them need some reactivation, but generally the big majority is active. So this March, I've been to Socsargen, Tarlac, and Baguio on induction and learning sessions. They usually combine induction with some learning sessions to maximize the president's time. And then we also had some CTSP happening in Baguio also on another occasion, and a project share program in Cebu. As a matter of fact, 2 days from now, VP Loy, who's our vice president, will be conducting a CTSP in Subic. Forthcoming, we're going to go to Nueva Ecija, Pangasinan, Bacolod, Iloilo, and Iligan. So this is the kind of activity that's happening in the chapter level. It's very good because we are a national organization. That's why we want to keep and hold close to our hearts all over the chapters all over the country. The other thing that's happening, and this will happen today, is we have a new harvest of new members, about 20 of them. I think Trustee Bebet, we'd like to give a big hand to Trustee Bebet for having this kind of a good harvest for new members. And also the PSOF is very active. As a matter of fact, headed by past President Nonong Contreras over there. You will have about 10 who will have the investiture today, in a while. The last thing that I wanted to report to you is on the national affairs level. I have personally taken charge of this committee, if you call it a committee, because I think this is critical. We started with a senatorial, forum last GMM. Now, very recently, what I did was I attended a voters education program. I personally attended it. It was a 2.5-hour session where what was discussed was basically what was the importance of the right to vote, what's the importance of these elections, And what's the importance of, especially the role of senators? We had a senator forum, especially the role of senators this year, because remember, there are 62 senators. It's practically almost impossible to really, without any help, to make a wise decision. So how can we be helped? Because the third level is what criteria can possibly be used to be able to make good decisions. So this is a 2.5-hour session conducted by a group that's doing this. And I found this to be a very good program. That's why I've invited representatives from them. And probably for those organizations who'd like to talk to them, because they have a resource pool that is available that they can deploy to your companies and do a 2.5-hour voters education program. And I'd like to introduce them, today. Do you have the slide? Do you have the slide? Mirali Mendoza Dur and Annabelle Kisimbing. Can you please stand up so that you can be recognized by the group? This is Mirali and Annabelle, and that's the telephone number. Just in case you're not able to approach them today, you may call them if you want to avail of a voters education program. I want to repeat the importance of this. It's already April, and come May 13 is election day. I think as HR, it is our responsibility to provide this opportunity for people to get to exercise their right to vote and exercise it wisely. So with this, I'd like to end my short talk by saying our topic today is a very interesting subject. It talks about celebrating women. I don't have any problems with I just want to also mention that this event is also co-sponsored by the LeadCom group, which is over there. Okay, can we give them a big hand? Okay, the LeadCom group. Diversity. More particularly, probably we're talking about gender diversity today because we talk about celebrating women. We salute all the women in our lives, and this is a GMM devoted for them. So I hope that you enjoy this afternoon and get the most out of this session. Thank you very much.
At this point, we'd like to call on stage Ms. Bebet M. Reyes, AFPM, Trustee in Charge, Membership Committee.
Good afternoon. Presenting you the new members for the month of March. New members, may you please come on the stage. For the corporate new members, Asprey Inc., Choose Your Shoes PH Inc., Continental Temic Electronics Philippines Inc., De La Salle University Dasmariñas, Aegis Projects Philippines Inc., Gorlavi Corp., Marel Philippines Services Corp., Metro Combined Logistics Solutions Inc., PetSure Services Inc., RMD Quick Form Philippines Inc., Samsung Electronics Philippines Corporation, Sinag Software Solutions Inc., and VY Domingo Jewelers Incorporated. For the Advocate Corporate, Recruit Day Inc. For the individual members, Mr. Honilo J. Del Rosario, Ms. Charlene R. Lucas, Mr. Rajo Mandhian, Ms. Eunice D. Senanin, Mr. David D. Gabatay, and for the advocate individual from the academe, Mr. Cisenando L. Solis. May I call on stage the past President Jimmy M. Isidro, DPM, to lead the charging.
Thank you, Trustee Bebet. For the charging of new members, do you pledge to maintain your membership in good standing by complying with all rules, regulation, and directives of PMAP? Again. Do you pledge to maintain your membership in good standing by complying with all rules, regulations, or directives of PMAP? Thank you. Another one. Do you pledge to uphold the creed and code of ethics of the PMAP and to practice all principles that PMAP shall promulgate? Okay. Third one. Do you pledge to attend all meetings of the PMAP, whether annual, regular, and special or committee meetings, and to vote on any matters referred to you by PMAP whenever voting is necessary for any action that PMAP shall take? Yes. Thank you. And the last one, and the very important one, do you pledge to pay your annual dues and other assessment? Yes. Madam Bebet, thank you very much.
Thank you, past President Jimmy M. Isidro. For the oath-taking, may I call on President Jerry A. Plana, and for the solemnity, may I request everyone to please rise.
Okay, please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name, of your company, recognize and accept the responsibility incumbent upon me as member of the People Management Association of the Philippines. I pledge myself to perform the tasks of my position in accordance with the PMAP Constitution and bylaws, and to be faithful to the traditions of our founding fathers, to observe and maintain high standards of performance in the practice of the people management profession, to uphold and protect the principles and objectives for which the association was founded, and to attend all meetings and deliver all results expected of me, on time and in the highest standards of excellence. In discharging these obligations, I impose upon myself these responsibilities willfully and conscientiously, and with zeal and dedication, without purpose of evasion. So help me God. Congratulations.
Congratulations to the new batch of PMAP members. May I invite the PMAP officers and trustees to welcome the new members to the PMAP fold.
sila, tapos na. Tapos na sila.
Thank you.
Singit-singit muna tayo dito. Alika, dito tayo. Kami takip dito. Thank you.
For the PSOF investiture, let us welcome on stage the President of the Society of Fellows in People Management and 2004 PMAP President, Mr. Oscar L. Contreras Jr., DPM.
Good afternoon. We welcome you to the Manila leg of the accreditation process for investiture to the Philippine Society of Fellows. And I call it the Manila leg because right now we're like a piano. It has 4 legs. We have chapters or fellows as well in Davao, in Cagayan de Oro, and in Baguio. And this is the NCR leg. That's why it's like a Weinstein piano. It has 4 legs. It's supposed to be a joke, okay? So we'd like to introduce the 10 fellows who will be inducted to the ranks of the PSOF. We conducted 3 whole-day interviews in Manila. And for accreditation this afternoon, we have 2 associate fellows, 6 fellows, and 2 diplomates, making a total of 10. As you know, did you know? No, okay. As you know, there are 3 grades or levels of fellows. The AFPM, which corresponds to accreditation, to the ranks of Associate Fellow for People Management. And these are the specialists in any of the 5 major areas of HR that we know of. The FPM is titled Invested for those who have mastery of all the major areas of people management. And when you talk about a diplomate, you graduate from what you call the functional transactional expert into that of a coach, a navigator, to you sit on the management table, not as a second-rate cousin knocking on the doors of management, but now a full-fledged business partner. Somebody who is sought after for his ideas, authoritative ideas at that, in terms of indicating to management the HR implications of complex business issues. So without much ado, I'd like to first indicate that for the last year or so, we have been busy somehow shoring up our ranks because our ranks were thinning. Not that we are an aging society. And we thought that we should concentrate on developing a critical mass so that, and going nationwide at that. So now we have 49 AFPMs, 130 FPMs, and 46 diplomates. Konting palakpak naman dyan. So we start the investiture ceremony, and we request the new fellows, associates, and diplomates to come forward and stand facing the audience. And I'll call you, as Arab would say, each by each, isa-isa. The first awardee is Mr. Albert Entao Jr., AFPM. Albert is an executive consultant. He was with us in Globe, worked with IBM as well, and is now an independent consultant. The next associate fellow is Mr. Alan Alas. Alan Alas. Alas, he's not here. So we proceed to the next awardee. We have Mr. Engelbert Kamazura, Fellow in People Management. Welcome, Bert. Number 4, Miss Grace Canave, PhD, Fellow in People Management. Welcome, Grace. The next FPM is Eric, or his full name is Erickson Del Castillo, Fellow in People Management. Marami kaya tayong inimbita, pare. The next fellow in people management and is Michelle Guse. Welcome, Michelle. It's kind of awkward to call a lady a fellow, isn't it? It's just like calling a Girl Scout, Boy Scout na babae. Okay. The next is Miss Maricor G. Militante, Fellow in People Management. Welcome, Maricor. Eighth, we have Miss Jovi Ann Monsalud, Fellow in People Management. Welcome, Jovi. And for the diplomates, we'd like to call on stage, and it's an honor and privilege to call Attorney Josephus B. Jimenez, AB, LLB, CES, DP, and now he's going to add DPM. Welcome, Josephus. Another past president, Ms. Grace Zata, Diplomate in People Management. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's all give a big hand for our inductees. And as president of the PSOF, I've been asked to induce them to do the to induct them into their respective ranks. Do you have the? Are we supposed to give them each the Accreditation Pledge? Okay, so you just repeat after me. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Having been accredited, state whether associate, fellow, or diplomate in people management, do hereby solemnly pledge that I will enhance and enrich the practice of the people management profession through research, teaching or writing, sharing, and with others new ideas and concepts directed towards the continuing development of modern HR tools, programs, and innovative practices. That, in the exercise of my profession, I shall conduct myself in the highest standards of professionalism and honor, so that I can be a role model for other professionals. That I will support and abide by the Constitution and bylaws and get actively involved in the affairs, activities, and projects of the People Management Association of the Philippines and of its Society of Fellows, to which I now belong. So help me God. Let's give them a big hand. Congratulations. Can we ask the significant others to pin? Congratulations. The investiture medal on their respective spouses or spouses, as the case may be. May we ask the PSOF members to kindly ascend the stage and congratulate our peers and colleagues who have been newly inducted. Congratulations, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Salamat.
And we shall now hand the. Can you come up the stage again, awardees? Awardees.
Yes, sir.
Awardees, please come up the stage because we will give you your certificates.
Yes, sir.
Can we ask our President, Jerry Plana, to hand out the certificates to the certificates. The next. Congratulations, Albert. Bert. Eric. Meron. Let's have a session.
Thank you, thank you. Sir, I got photo.
Let's all give them a big hand again. And we look forward to calling a General Assembly of the Society of Fellows from Baguio to Davao, including NCR, by either the end of April or the first week of May. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, PP Nonong. For our first topic, the power and empowerment of women and leaders, let us all welcome on stage Ms. Chiki Igo, Chairperson of Women's Business Council Philippines and the President and CEO of Mansmith and Fielders Incorporated.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this invite. Since becoming chair of Women's Business Council, March has become a busy month for me. Hold on, let me just get this. I always say that sana hindi only March ang usapang kababaihan, but I'm grateful for the fact that every year there's a month allotted for women achievements and contributions to the economy. So maraming salamat to PMAP for the invite. This is one topic that I'm willing to rearrange my schedule for. So since the beginning of March, I've been having several talks. Those are talks that I did. Even attended several roundtable discussions from the Philippine Institute of Development Studies, the Philippine Commission on Women. Just recently, the Makati Business Club had a talk on women in the C-suite. So a lot of things happening in March. I was even interviewed for the extended maternity leave law. And yeah, but somehow I'm always wondering, why does it have to look like we're always fighting for something? So why does it have to be na merong month of March for women? And I'm going to come in very differently. I'm chair of Women's Business Council, and I've attended for the past 10 years APEC Women in the Economy Forum, ASEAN Women in the Economy Forum, all these things, and we do talk about girl bosses or fighting for rights, tama? I'm sure you've all come across the the gender report. Have you ever come across this, where the Philippines is number 8? Yeah? And always I ask about the questions, what do these numbers mean? So that other chart there says that it will take 70 years for South Asia to be able to match, to address the gender gap. 70 years, 70. In the other chart, most of the jobs for women are still in the area of nonprofit, healthcare, and education, and it's not even 1/3, 1/2. It's just less than 1/3. So these are the common things that we come across. I'm sure women here have encountered this. Ito palagi yung pinag-uusapan natin. Interesting there in the gender report of Women in the Economy of the World Economic Forum is Rwanda. That's Africa. The other countries you're sure about it, di ba? And Rwanda is there because in 1996, I think, there was genocide that led to about 60 to 70% depletion of the men. So that's why the country and the president had to come up with an initiative to bring the women into the workforce and into politics, and that has been the trend ever since. And I'm sharing this in pieces of information because we've seen these reports. And what does it mean? But hindi na tayo naalis dyan. We're always there looking into these numbers. Again, for the past 10 years that I attended all these international conventions, I've seen these numbers. These are Harvard Business Review case studies for women in the workforce. I'm sure you have come across that. And palagi na lang we always say that it's when women have children that is an issue. And for people in HR, these are very interesting statistics. 60% actually stay on from women past their second child, but 90% will fall out because the workplace dynamics are no longer friendly to women with mothers. That number 6 over there, that $11,000, is actually the difference in the salaries of a woman with children versus a single woman without children. So you can see what we're up against. And these numbers haven't changed. And this is why I'm here, to come up not just as a woman in business, but as an advocate of gender diversity using a social cultural lens. This is another study done by the Ateneo Graduate School of Business and the Institute of Corporate Directors, which look at women in boards. Again, those numbers will tell you that we do have the numbers in women have the numbers in education, and but along the way, the funnel goes smaller as we reach the upper limits in women in boards. So again, what is the story behind these numbers? And that's what I'm here to discuss. What do we talk about when it comes to women equality, when achieving gender diversity? So even Bloomberg has already put this into place, and it makes sense. Do our companies provide skills for women to catch up? We do, right? Do we get support from the top? We're already talking about it. And then make it part of business objectives. Makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's simply there already. But it's still not moving the needle closer to addressing the gender gap. And that's why I'm extremely passionate about this topic. Every time I get to be invited to give a talk on gender diversity, achieving gender equality in the workplace, because there's something else that I'd like to put, because the numbers don't really match up. It doesn't explain a lot of things. And I come before you, not just, again, as a woman in business, but as an anthropologist. I'm taking my master's in anthropology in UP. Yeah, I was looking for an icon of a female anthropologist, and there's still a skull there. That's, at least the icon has a lady in heels. But these are the things that ever since I went into anthropology and I brought in this perspective in my Women's Business Council in the Philippines, I have taken another approach. Really, for true women empowerment to happen or to be realized, there must be cultural transformation. And for cultural transformation, we mean women must claim their safe place and safe self-power, and men, and here's the important thing, men to be an active part of the equation that champions and supports women's rights. again, this is the change we want to see. And I'm really looking at, okay, I actually put together for Women's Business Council a session last year, March, on fathers for daughters and building the next generation mindsets. Looking at how less painful it could be for young women to take that voice. I'm looking at the home, the school, and everything else on how we can really empower those women as naturally and as painless as possible. And those are other statistics. Why don't women get those jobs? And women have higher standards. They're not good managers, etc. I'm not going to deal about that, but there are 2 tweets there. I don't know if you can read it as clearly. But I'd like to share a male champion. You all know Andy Murray, the tennis champion. And at one point, he lost a quarterfinal game to Sam Querrey, and the reporter goes after the game interview, and the reporter goes, "Oh, so Sam is now the first U.S. player since 2007 to enter the semifinals." And Andy Murray said, "Male player." Beg your pardon? Male player. He did it again when he won in the Olympics, where the BBC commentator said, "Oh, you happen to be the first U.S. player to win 2 Olympic gold medals." And he said, "I think Serena and Venus won about 4 each." And the tweet is the mother of Andy Murray saying, "That's my boy." There's another tweet there. This time it's Stephen King. You know Stephen King, the author and the screenwriter of Carrie, the horror movie. And he's mentioned something about his wife is pissed on the headline about Stephen King and his wife donates $1.25 million to the National Genealogical Society. She has a name, Tabitha King. Just a footnote here, and that's the male champion, Stephen King, saying something. But there's also a footnote about Tabitha King. You don't know her as well as Stephen King, but she is actually a writer herself, an author, and she's also very famous. She was the one who got the script of Carrie, the movie, from the trash can because Stephen King gave up on it and insisted for Stephen King, you have to finish the script. Using her typewriter because Stephen King at that time couldn't even afford his own. So that's the power of having male champions. But here's another thing that's very curious in my world, because just recently a young lady approached me asking for help because she belongs to an industry that's male-dominated, the shipping industry. She's the child of the owner, and she said, how do I change cultures within the company when it's very male-driven, the green jokes flying around and everything? And I told her, well, you're the child of the owner. You have the power to change this culture. And you can always ask for your father's help. And she said, my father is part of the one who gives those green jokes. And I said, then you have to talk to your father to help you change that culture. And she goes, and it was like she was, yeah, I have to talk to my father. What I found curious about the situation is that she'd never even thought of talking to her father before she talked to me. And how do you explain that? Culture. It's a social distance, it's how we talk to the elders. We're not supposed to ask those questions, and unless those things happen, we're not gonna move that needle again. So the change we want to see is that equation of women learning to ask those questions, to claim their rights and their space, and men to be part of the equation that supports that. I attended one of the Global Summit of Women years ago, and there was a young father who stood up, asked a question, I have daughters, and I've been listening for the past 3 days to the challenges of women here. What can I do so my daughters don't have to go through this journey that you're all traversing? And all the women gave him a standing ovation. But one of the things that was powerful for me was a lady panelist said, be the best example of a man for your daughter. And that's huge. That's huge. So here now is what I wanted to share with you, which I told Lynn, which is a topic of my talk today, is I did a study on birth orders and parental involvement, coming from my own journey as a woman who had to find my voice and space. Can I have raise of hands? How many are eldest children here? Okay, so sabi nila, eldest children are, what? They say bullies. Show of hands of youngest children. Not a lot. Youngest. So youngest children are, what? They're the bullies down. So they're brats. Brats, right? And what about middle children? Why am I not surprised that there are many middle children in the HR industry? Why am I not surprised, right? So this was a top, okay, middle children like me are the best. Okay. I just had to look for a letter B somewhere there. That's me. But there's a lot, okay, so we're really looking at traditional roles and hierarchies and stereotyping, right? Eldest children, you're bullies, you're grouchy and grumpy. But really, there's a reason why there are icons of chicken, fried chicken there. And that is the reason why I came up with this research. And that icon, actually when you Google icon of fried chicken, the drumstick will appear. So I said, what's with the drumstick? And apparently that's a lot of meaning for a lot of people. So let me tell you where I'm coming from. In the world that I'm in, which is a lot of empowered women, I look at my elder mentors. They're about 10 to 12 years older than I am. And I look and I marvel at how can they be so naturally empowered? Why isn't it painful for them to put themselves forward? And me, I have to struggle. And that's why I'm looking at the culture, because it's not natural for me to assert myself. And this lady, who I thought I had nothing in common, alpha female, that if you don't know her, she's scary. I get scared when I'm beside her, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden she said something like, when we were talking about birth orders and middle children, she said, I never got the drumstick. And coming back, and I looked at her and I said, oh my God, we'd have the same past issue. It's about the magic chicken feeding a family of 9. So my parents, and we were 7 siblings. I'm the 5th in the family in a sibling of 7. And I was like, I never got the fried chicken, the drumstick. It was the choicest part, right? Buti na lang ngayon, there's choice cuts. So all my kids can eat drumstick or fried or thighs. So I wanted to look at that. What did we have in common with this lady who I thought was nothing like me? So anyway, I did this study. It's of course this was the title, Birth Order and Parental Involvement Influences of Life Scripts of Empowered Women Entrepreneurs. So it's very small samplings, very qualitative. I'm an anthropologist, so in-depth interview, purposive sampling of 6 women CEO entrepreneurs. And what came out, the common themes were perceived influence on birth orders, on parental involvement, the continuing the entrepreneurial legacy, and of course crucibles, which are the milestones in the lives of these women. Those crucibles could be the death of a father or a mother, etc., etc. Of course, as we can predict, there is no basis. Birth orders don't really matter. It really depends on the psychological birth order or your position in the family. So for example, I know of some families where the eldest is actually the most spoiled because they grew up with their grandmothers. So it takes on the second child becomes now the de facto leader. But what was found is the parental and sibling dynamics within families strongly shape value systems in a sense of self and others, as well as develop traits of assertiveness, focus, and leadership, which were the things I was looking for on these women leaders. Why were they naturally empowered? So here's the scenario. These women leaders were at least 10 years older than I was. At the time, my mother was born in 1927. My generation of mothers were housewives. And yet they were 10 years older than me, and I found that these 6 women all had mothers who were already working at that time. And it was a kind of work they were deans of universities, they were One was a dentist. So you can already see the accomplishment back then, such that their daughters were naturally empowered. I didn't have that. My mother was a housewife. I remember, and that was a badge of honor, by the way. I remember my mother talking and her story about a neighbor who passed, a lady, a mother who passed away from breast cancer early while her kids were still small. And this neighbor said, Melly, that's my mom, you're so lucky that, God knows how lucky your kids are because God knows your kids need you because she was a housewife. Not like me, since I'm a working mom, my kids won't miss me too much. Can you imagine that back then in the 60s? That was how it was meant to be. So now the role of parents' education, I felt, was the biggest, and their professional backgrounds, was the biggest influence on how women can be naturally empowered. And it showed for the entrepreneurs, 60% of women founders had mothers who were also women founders. So you can imagine now the next generation. Our generation, we're all working already. The women here, we're privileged to have had education and to be able to work in companies where our strengths are recognized. Alongside, we're even higher than some of the men. We're lucky, but not all women are as lucky. And that's what I want to bring forth. How do we empower the young people to be able to naturally claim their voice? And so there must be life hacks, right? One of the life hacks, some people don't listen to women in meetings. So if you're a woman in a meeting trying to get some attention for your ideas, simply start your sentence with, when I was a prostitute. And while it's funny, I do have a student who is she's female, Asian, young, working for a German company in Germany. And she was so frustrated about not being listened to that she had to talk to her boss. And the boss said, you're my brightest team member, but you don't know timing. And you have to come in at a time when people can listen and hear you. So I asked her, what did you do? Oh, Chiki, maybe for 2 days during meetings, I would doodle. And when they've run out of ideas, then I jump in. So see, the 3 layers, she's young, she's Asian, and she's female, working in a German company. You can imagine what she's up against. But here's a very empowered woman. But here's another thing. Let's stop rushing to find husbands and start rushing to freeze our eggs. Something that is so unthinkable and unimaginable during my time, but are real choices that today's high-flying female millennials are already doing or considering. So see, the cultures will change, or even now, the way we raise our sons to be able to accept the choices of women now about freezing eggs. Now, it remains to be seen how this will affect societal and family structures, but these are real changes that are happening now, and it's unimaginable, again, as I said, freezing your eggs, and yet managing, again, going up against societal pressures, psychological pressures of why aren't you married, why aren't you having children? So these are the real things that are happening for women. This is a short video when Indra Nooyi of PepsiCo was asked about her encounter with Steve Jobs.
My personality to do that. He said, if you really feel strongly about something and don't like something people are doing, throw a temper. Throw things around, because people have got to know that you feel strongly about it. And I talked to his agency partners, and they said that if you showed Steve a campaign or showed him a design for a product, and if he didn't like it, he would throw the papers across the room and make them work all night. Now, I haven't gone that far, but I'm beginning to use certain words a little bit more freely, and I am screaming a bit more. When I say screaming, pounding the table and saying, this is a piece of stuff and go redo it, which is really not the way I walk, but it is effective because it shows the passion that I have for what I'm doing.
Now, you're lucky if that tantrum is seen as passion versus menopause or hormones, right? So I would propose again that besides the cultural transformation is that there's also a changing definition of empowerment. Truth to be told, I had a resistance when it came to the word empowerment because the word power means somebody might be disempowered. So I try not to use that. I think maybe women enablement, but again, just look at the changing definition. So in my time, it was the authority or power given to someone to do something. I needed permission in my time. Right? We needed permission to do something. To today's process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's right. So now, the empowerment is you just have to claim it. It's there. So today's daughters, today's young women are in a different world already, and we need to be able to cope with that. This is Christine Romano, who broke away. He's the first Filipina partner of McKinsey. I think she's not even 40. We're actually inviting her to Women's Business Forum maybe in August or September. We want to showcase that the future of women is here now because these women are already doing it. So look at what she said. Actually seeing someone, her boss, I interact with every day, achieve this seemingly impossible goal showed me that I could also do it. That is why we need more female role models in senior positions. Another is having sponsors. People who will insist that you develop and take on bigger roles, even you personally feel you're not fully ready yet, and help you get there. It showed me that I had to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm hoping that at some point this will make it easier for the next generation. Can you imagine a 36-year-old wanting to make things easier for the next generation? Here's the Filipina engineer who makes sure your Netflix doesn't buffer. Okay? That's so important. Who has Netflix here? Oh, come on. Don't you all wish we can just retire and watch Netflix for the rest of our lives? So this is Ann Aaron. She's Filipina. And look what she said. She recounts, earlier in my career, an executive told me that I had too much of a balanced life to be successful. You have a boyfriend, a family, and friends. I told the fellow Pinay, and she said, do you think he said the same thing to your male peers? You already remembered, right? $11,000 difference of the pay gap between a woman with kids and a single woman without kids. So you can't be successful if you have a good life. But she had male allies who questioned and worked toward a better environment for women in the tech industry. They recognized my abilities and helped advocate for me and my work, and of course, the company culture that allowed for open communication, no matter the position. So she mentioned how she can just go to the CEO and the chief of product and be comfortable asking those tough questions. So here in our country, the need for cultural transformation is more evident. Maybe in the US, they're more accepting of these things, but locally, I think there's much change to happen there. So again, how do you define women, the power and empowerment? And this is my favorite description. Women and power, is there a more incendiary combination of words in the English language? Drinking and driving, teenagers and sex. A woman can never be too rich or too thin, but until very, very recently, she can be too powerful, for which if she was not smart enough to camouflage herself, she generally paid the price. Sometimes she got burned at the stake, sometimes she got run out of town, sometimes she simply got sexualized, which has been the easiest way to neutralize, if not destroy, an accomplished woman. Without really going into the politics, I just want to share an example of how a lady senator, you all know Senator De Lima, was featured in newspapers during the height of the scandal. And there was a broadsheet that featured her, this big, picture on the front page, this big, of her wearing a bathing suit. Of course, she had a life vest on, but she was wearing a bathing suit. And I talked to the editors of that newspaper, and I said, if this were a politician who was philandering or doing a lot of things, would you have featured him in his swimming trunks? Of course, the answer was no. So sexualizing is the easiest way to neutralize, if not destroy, an accomplished woman. So just 2 more slides before I end. I'd like to share this. Can I have the sound, please?
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. we stand for something, we're unhinged. When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical or rational or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy. A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking, crazy. Coaching an NBA team, crazy. A woman competing in a hit jump, changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more. Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
So dream crazier. So my final definition of power, again, which I ascribe to, is this. Power is the ability to take one's place in whatever discourse is essential to action and the right to have one's part matter. Can I repeat that? What is power? What is that voice that we're looking for? Power is the ability to take one's place in whatever discourse is essential to action and the right to have one's part matter. So I go back for my proposal for cultural transformation, for women to raise sons who are self-aware, like Andy Murray, Stephen King, and if I may mention my husband, Josiah Go, to be role models for their daughters, to be the best examples of men for their daughters, for men who must know and accept their important part in this gender equal equation to be the best examples of their men, not just for their daughters, but also for their sons, and for our sons and daughters to make clear choices, especially in relationships, that will bring them to the next higher spiritual level for their full potential, so that amidst challenges, they don't walk away and instead they will rise. We need cultural transformation in that. And on behalf of a lot of women, I'd like to thank a special shout out to the men who continue to nurture and support the women in their lives, and to the women in the room, a happy Women's Month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chiki. And now, to discuss the topic, Women and Changing Attitudes Towards Work and Care, may we call on Ms. Alison Agarwal, Gender Advocacy Director, and Mr. Kim Patria, Partnerships Manager, Advocacy and Communications of Investing in Women. Let's give them a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, PMAP, for inviting us to this talk, and thank you to the previous speaker for that inspiring talk, Ms. Chiki. Thank you. Again, I am Kim Patria, Advocacy and Communications Partnerships Manager for Investing in Women.
Hi, and I'm Alison Agarwal, the Director of Gender Advocacy at Investing in Women. Good afternoon.
So first of all, we'd like to thank PMAP for inviting us to this event again. PMAP is our partner who has been doing for us research on family-friendly policies and practices. So I'd like to acknowledge the work that the Chief Executive, Mr. Jerry Plana, has been doing. The Executive Director, Mr. Rene Henner, and Ms. Sara Niguas, who has been working with us closely for this partnership. Thank you for your cooperation and for the support that you're providing, investing in women in our work in women's economic empowerment. So we have been invited to talk about women in national issues, and this afternoon we've decided to talk about women and the changing nature and attitudes to work and care. But allow us first to tell you a bit about Investing in Women. Investing in Women is an initiative of the Australian government that promotes women's participation as employees and entrepreneurs and seeks to influence the environment for women's economic empowerment. We operate in 4 countries, the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Myanmar, with headquarters in Manila. We work primarily through partnerships. So we work with businesses, employers, to promote workplace gender equality. We partner with investors to encourage the flow of capital into women-owned and women-led enterprises. And we work with research and advocacy partners to identify and shift gender norms that prevent women from fully participating in the workforce and in business. Today, we want to talk to you first about our work in workplace gender equality and later share with you how gender norms underpin those issues. So, investing in women's work in workplace gender equality centers within business coalitions. We have established 4 business coalitions in the target countries that we work in. And these business coalitions are formed by large employers who have committed to put in place workplace policies and to promote gender equality within their spheres of influence. In the Philippines, we have supported the establishment of the Philippine Business Coalition for Women Empowerment. These are the 7 founding members of PBCW. We have Accenture in the Philippines, Ayala Land, Concentrix, formerly Converges, the Magsaysay Group, Natasha, SGV, and the SSI Group. All these companies have been certified by EDGE. EDGE is a leading global assessment methodology and benchmarking tool for gender equality. What's great about EDGE certification is that it takes 3 sources of data. So you have data from companies themselves, you have an independent auditor doing gender equality check across the company, and you have an employee survey. EDGE then works with companies to provide them with a robust workforce analytics approach that helps them look into a gender gap within the workplace in terms of pay, in terms of promotion, in terms of hiring, in terms of training. It also provides companies with an effective benchmarking tool that helps them look for companies throughout geographies and industries with which they can compare their own gender equality policies and practices. And they help companies develop an action plan to make sure that their gender equality efforts have an impact both within the organization and without. And if you want to learn more about EDGE certification, please approach us after this talk so we can put you in contact with PBCW. PBCW is now a licensee of EDGE, so they roll out EDGE certification and support in the Philippines for the Swiss-based organization. So why is investing in women working for gender equality? We believe that for us to achieve inclusive growth, truly achieve inclusive growth, we need to make sure that no one, woman or man, is left behind. That is the moral imperative that we see in our work. But we also feel and we know that gender equality is good for business, and it has benefits both to economies and to individual companies. In that sense, gender equality is not just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. So we won't presume to talk to this room about the full benefits of having diversity in the workplace, both in gender, in race, in religion, in ideas, because you see this firsthand in your everyday work, and you should be the one telling us how diversity is really having an impact in your organizations. But allow us anyway to summarize based on research what the benefits are of having diversity, including gender diversity in your organizations. There are 4 points that are highlighted in research in terms of benefits to diversity. We have talent, innovation, reputation, and profit. So there is mounting evidence that diverse organizations are more successful at retaining talent. And there are direct reasons for this. A survey in 2016 of employees showed that job satisfaction is directly linked to the respect that they feel a company gives to all employees across all levels, across different walks of life. Diversity also helps reduce workplace harassment, and it also impacts innovation. So a report released just last week by Accenture, a member of the PBCW, shows new evidence to prove links to equality and innovation. This report, which you can download through the link in the screen, notes that innovation mindset, it's 6 times higher in companies that hit or tick the boxes of equality measures than those who are least equal. So it makes sense, right? If you have different people in the room with a diverse set of ideas, there's less probability for them to do groupthink. So they ask questions, they challenge assumptions, and they also welcome collaboration. Diversity has also been linked with reputation. And in fact, the world's most admired companies have twice as many women in senior management. It's linked to the risk management behaviors that we're seeing in a group of leaders that are more diverse. They also have an ear to the ground, so they have a better sense of what the needs are of the stakeholders that they work with. The last point is profit. And a McKinsey survey of 1,000 companies globally suggested the top 25% of companies in terms of gender diversity in top leadership are more likely to create better value and profit for their employees and their companies. So let's focus now on the Philippines and how we're faring in terms of gender equality. Ms. Chiki earlier talked about the gender gap report put out by the World Economic Forum at the end of last year, where we ranked 8th globally. We're the best in the region in terms of in terms of bridging the gap between women and men. So it's easy for us to grow complacent and say, we are already doing well, so why are we still talking about gender equality? But there is still a lot of room for growth. For example, in the same report, the Philippines was revealed to be the poorest performing country in terms of in terms of women's workforce participation. We are 106th globally, in the bottom half of the rankings. And in the Philippines, we only have 50% of women in working age population in the workforce compared to some 70% of men. That's why there's that gap. Compare that to Vietnam, where you have almost 80% for both women and men. So that's how we're faring in the region. Also in the Philippines, as we move up the career ladder, the representation of women drops. I think you see this as well in your organizations. Let me know if this is still true. So when you start at entry level, there's actually a good gender mix. In senior management, based on an analysis of labor data by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, senior management, you still have 40% women, 60% men. But when you go up corporate executive level, you have 32% men. That drops further to 11% when you get to board level. So we need to ask the question of why women are dropping out of the pipeline, the talent pipeline. When we present these statistics, the questions we often hear are, don't women want to work because they're not participating in the workforce at the same rate as men? Or don't women want to get promoted because they're clearly not going up the ladder at the same pace and rate as men? But our own statistics, our own data shows a different picture. In 2018, we asked some 2,000 urban millennial women and men about why they want to work, what are their motivations for working, and 58% of our respondents said that they're motivated to work to be economically independent. So that's a very powerful statement, a very powerful thing to say. They want to work to be economically independent. The ratio is the same among men. Women are also motivated. Actually, they're more motivated than men to work to contribute to their family income. 72% of urban millennial women we surveyed answered that way when we asked the question, compared to 63% of men. So don't women want to get promoted? Actually, they do. 70% of urban millennial women in Investing in Women's survey said they're ambitious to achieve senior management roles. That's not too different to the statistics with men. 75% of the men we surveyed answered that. So it's not a question of what's wrong with women. Why aren't they moving up the ladder? Why aren't they joining the workforce as much as men? Maybe the question we need to ask is, how can we create an environment in our workplaces that allows women to fully participate? To answer that question, I now invite Alison.
Thank you, Kim. We thought it was important to have some gender balance in our presentation, so we're doing it together. So to answer this question, which we are posing, and I'm sure that many of you have posed it for yourselves as well, we really need to look at the question of how do we build workplace environments where women and men want to equally work. And to answer that question, what I'd like to do is really draw on the research that has taken place here in the Philippines and in the region to tell you what Philippine men and women are actually saying. And it's important as well to draw on some of the leading edge work that businesses right here in the Philippines are doing to identify what are the social and cultural stereotypes and attitudes and behaviors that are really making the difference between companies that are successful in gender equality and companies that are still learning in terms of gender equality. So one of the things I'd just like to bring to your attention, I'm not sure if some of you saw it, it was released last week. And it was a report by the Makati Business Club, a report that they'd done in conjunction with PBC We, the coalition that we're working with. Did anybody see that report? It's called Women in the Philippines C-Suite. I thought it might be a useful report to draw to your attention because I think this is at the crux of the work that PMAP and its members are doing in terms of women's leadership. What was interesting about that report was that it looked at 4 areas of social attitudes and behaviors in Philippine workforces. And that was around individual perceptions, family concerns, the broader community, and company culture. So firstly, just about self-perceptions. One of the things that I've commonly heard, and maybe you've also heard quite a lot, is that women lack confidence to be leaders. And it was interesting that this report actually looked at that question. Is it a question of confidence? And one of the things it found was that 95% of Filipino women in the report felt they were confident to explore leadership roles. So the confidence is there, but it's not being realized in terms of actual numbers of women leaders. What was even more interesting was that the report went on to find was that women, when approached about going into leadership positions in the near future, were hesitant. And what was that hesitancy about? Was that hesitancy about a lack of confidence? Or was that hesitancy because women are often responding to a whole range of factors in making that decision to take on a leadership position or not? Now, in other words, could women afford to take the risk to go into leadership positions? Recalling that in our own survey, and Kim mentioned this, Filipino women are more likely than men to say that they work to contribute to their family income. So that intention and that hunger and that appetite for women to work and to be in leadership positions in the Philippines is strong. And it means that women are not only working for themselves, but also for their families. So when we think about that, what women are having to do is to face a decision. If I take this leadership role, will it be too much for me because I also have my role as mother in the family, right? So these are very real decisions that women are having to make. And to understand them as a confidence issue may be misplaced. What we really need to understand is the kinds of decisions women need to make to be able to take up their leadership roles. So along those lines, the McCarthy Business report also showed that women were more likely to feel guilty when they get too busy at work at the expense of their home and family life. Now, why do they feel guilty? Because whether they are working or not, according to the Investment in Women data, women in the Philippines report that they take on more housework than their spouses. So this is a real dilemma, and it's playing out in terms of guilt for a lot of women. They're guilty for not doing enough at work and not doing enough in the home, right? So this guilt is also reinforced by society's expectations of Filipino women as the carers and nurturers. I think you have a saying here in the Philippines, ilaw ng tahanan. Yes? Did I say it right? Yeah, okay. So you're very familiar with how this expression of women's role in the home. And women feel this pressure, and it's still a significant pressure that's felt. And that's not just me saying that. That is what Filipino men and women who are responding to these surveys are saying. So traditional gender roles also extend to the workplace. So that these roles and stereotypes that we have about how women work, how men work in the workplace, in the home, have an impact on what kind of environments we can create in our workplaces. In terms of understanding how social norms can operate in workplaces, it was interesting that a strong majority of both women and men in the survey we did think there need to be stronger workplace policies to help them achieve a better balance between responsibilities at work and responsibilities in the home. So as HR managers, as companies, as CEOs of workplaces, there are many things that we can do in terms of work and care. And here are some considerations. Firstly, I think we need to understand that it's real for all employees in our workplaces to have a dual role. Every individual in this room, in our workplaces, whether they're men or women, at some point in their career will need to balance their role as providers and as carers, whether to children, to their spouse, or to elderly parents. So we need to explore opportunities to make our workplace policies family-friendly. These policies can include parental leave, flexible work, or even childcare arrangements. I just want to highlight the work that PMAP is doing in partnership with Investing in Women on these issues. So they're doing some research investigating what are family-friendly policies, what do employees want, how are companies responding. And this research is going to be launched at the General Assembly in July. So watch this space. We're looking forward to seeing that research. In considering family-friendly policies, we also need to be aware about the role of men. Family-friendly policies isn't just about the role of women, but it's also men play a very important role in this space. Because the answer to how can women fully participate in the workforce is also about how can men equally participate in the home. At Investing in Women, we recognise that the conversation about normalising the economic role of women needs to happen alongside the conversation about normalising the role of men at home. I want to share with you a short video that a partnership that we have been working with Spark Philippines have produced as part of their In Fairness campaign, speaking directly to the role of men in the home. Any minute now. So just, we showed that video because I think it goes to show that when we're looking at how gender norms impact on keeping women out of the workplace, we also need to understand how they're keeping men out of the home. And when we look at what policies we want to put in place, we need to understand how these two areas interact. And I want to take up the example of something that happened here in the Philippines recently to show how they interact. So you'll be aware that recently there was the expansion of maternity leave benefits, which has been widely celebrated last month. Maternity leave provides women with security of employment for when they have a break in order to care for children. With the new law, women have 120 days maximum for single mothers. Men have 14 days maximum, 7 under the paternity leave law, and 7 if their spouse transfers to them another 7 days of their maternity leave benefit. Now, when we did our survey, I think this was very, very useful to understand that despite the availability of maternity leave benefits, we found that there's very low take-up of maternity leave in the Philippines. And the reason for this was women felt that there was stigma for when they did take parental leave. So 25% of the urban millennial women that we surveyed said they face criticism when accessing maternity leave. What's even more interesting is that 43% of men surveyed said that taking parental leave can expose them to criticism in the workplace. So this can have a real chilling effect on men and women taking advantage of their parental leave. So in relation to that, one of the things that we have been looking at is the importance of what role companies can play, what role HR managers can play, what role employers can play in actually encouraging parental leave. And one of the examples here in the Philippines is that those companies who are leading the way, who are rising to the challenge of promoting these parental leave policies, are actually reaping the benefits. So we have an example from Accenture, who's a member of PBCW. So they found that as a result of introducing their parental leave policy, which is extensive in terms of both maternity leave but also in terms of paternity leave, that 40% of the number of mothers leaving jobs after having the birth of their child actually reduced, right? So that's actually an investment that's reaping rewards for this company. So I've just kind of lost one of my slides, so I'll just finish up on that. So really what we need to be talking about is how can employers talk about employees' caring roles? How can they have family-friendly policies? And how can they consider men's role at home? And as the previous speaker, Chiki, also said, it's really about getting to the bottom of what are these gender roles that are operating in our homes and in our workplaces. And in order to do that, while policies are very good, what we're really going to have to work with is changing hearts and minds. Yeah? So I leave you with two questions for this. The first is, if we're talking about changing work and care attitudes, my question to you is, how will you change it? And secondly, wait for it, social norms that impact work care choices and in effect diversity. How will you change them? We encourage you to come and talk about any of these issues. We are very here and welcome to talk about all of those issues, but also with PMAP, who we are partnering with to work on these issues. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Allison and Mr. Kim. For today's panel discussion on PMAP Future Leaders Program, may we call on stage our moderator, Mr. Mark Joseph Cancino, Human Resources and General Affairs Manager, Nissan Philippines Incorporated. Our panelists, starting with Ms. Heidi Enriquez, FPM, General Manager for Countryside Development, Saitel Philippines, Ms. Jacqueline Baliena, Vice President for Operations, Life 1 CISP, and Mr. Roberto Policarpio, AFPM, HR Manager for OD and Training, San Miguel Yamamura Packaging Corporation, and 2015 PMAP President.
Good afternoon to our dear guests and fellow PMAppers. We hope that you don't leave yet because you are about to witness another gold mine for today's GMM. But before we start, I'd like to ask you first, especially those senior leaders here. Yeah, I see a lot of professionals with several years of experiences. So my question to you is, what is that one thing that you think made your career successful? Is it your company? Is it the role? Is it your boss? Yeah. Oh, I hear some whispers. So maybe your mentors, right? So mentorship really plays a big factor in our career growth. Am I right? Yes. I see several nods. That's why for today, especially for those young professionals, don't worry because PMAP is here to share with you a program that will help you develop your career, not only in PMAP, but in your own industries. I'd like to introduce to you three of our esteemed panelists. So let me introduce to you first our first panelist. She is a known advocate of young leadership in the cooperative movement. And at the age of 33, she was appointed as the Vice President of Operations of 1CISP's Life Division. And on the same year, she was invited to be part of the Young Leaders Forum, or YLF. Our panelist has been in HR for 8 years, dreaming to transform HR in the cooperative setting. right? Well, some of us might be in the corporate setting. She is in the cooperative movement. And that dream led her to join PMAP mentoring program. And now, to give back, she's now the vice chairperson of the PMAP's leadership committee. And then this January 2019, she will share the rebranded PMAP Leadcom's mentorship program. Friends, let us welcome our first panelist, Ms. Jacqueline Bayena. Okay. Now we also have our second panelist. Our second panelist is a seasoned and recognized leader with 30 years of management experience, and 15 years of each is in the HR and general management in the BPO industry. She completed her education in general management in the Harvard Business School in November 2011. And her proven expertise and excellence in HR have won her the prestigious and coveted People Manager of the Year award by PMAP in 2017. Not only that, she was the executive champion of the Cytle Academy, which also won the prestigious PMAP's People Program of the Year in 2018. Almost year by year, right? So she has been bestowed another award, which is the honor of Fellow in People Management by the Elite Philippine Society of Fellows of PMAP. And we are so grateful today for her passion and commitment to help train young leaders in spite of her very busy schedule as one of the heads of her company. So friends, let us welcome Ms. Heidi Enriquez. And last but not the least, our third panelist is a highly respected figure in the HR world with 34 years of experience. He started in a government institution and moved to several industries such as banking, international retail, and manufacturing, with assignments not only in the Philippines, but in China, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. He is very instrumental to the growth of PMAP, as we all know today. And we have a lot to thank for him for the selfless dedication and commitment to serve the association through different committees. He was part and he headed awards, membership, fellowship, and marketing committees. And even before he joined PMAP, he already had a heart to mentor young HR leaders, motivating him to institute JPMAP's annual convention. So it was him who instituted JPMAP convention. And our panelist and his wife are the chair couple of the Parish Pastoral Council of Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish in Malabon since 2007. So he's not only focused in doing HR, but also in offering service to the church. And he is a proud father of 3 beautiful daughters who are also actively involved in the youth ministry of their parents. My dear friends, let us welcome our 2015 National PMAP President, Mr. Roberto Obet Policarpio. So now, are we all excited to get to know more about the program? Yes, right. Thank you for the support. So I'd like to address this question to each of you. To Sir Obet first, what do you think is the role of PMAP Leadcom in growing PMAP as an organization?
Thank you. I believe that the role of the PMAP Leadcom is to develop new leaders, to inspire them so that they are motivated to do more beyond themselves. And I believe it is this way that we can pay forward so that as new leaders of our association, we'll be able to repay back the people who have helped us through the years to be where we are today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. So basically, that's giving back and moving forward your career as well. So growing with PMAP as an organization. And now to Ms. Heidi. We know that there are a lot of, by the way, who are here part of companies that have leadership programs or mentoring programs? There are several people. So, Ms. Heidi, you've been exposed to several leadership programs, right? So what is the difference of PMAP's mentoring program to the other programs?
Well, first and foremost, it really bridges, for me, it bridges the gap between theories and realities. Because within the different organizations that I've been part of, there were mentoring programs as well. But it's different because you are being mentored by the people who are in the same company, in the same organization. So you pretty much, you live and breathe the same air. Whereas in PMAP, I had an opportunity to be mentored by, my main mentor was Tita Puangco, whose strength was in OD. Completely different from what I considered to be my expertise and exposure then, which was recruiting and labor relations. So that, the opportunity to be mentored by someone who's coming from a totally different line of expertise is invaluable. The fact that you get exposed to other mentees and also other mentors who are coming from different types of industries, also very valuable. You know, I was reading an article, a Harvard article a couple of weeks back, and it talks about insider-outsider, okay? It says that one of the most potent ways to move your company forward is to develop insiders who think like outsiders. Okay? And for me, that was the most potent impact of the leadership development program of PMAP in my career. It really taught me not to ensconce myself in just the four corners of my company or my industry. But it taught me the value of always exposing myself to different types of experiences and challenging my own sets of beliefs by listening to others and by learning from them.
It's basically learning from different networks as well. It's like bringing the outside inside, and also maybe you as a mentor as a mentee would also contribute your inside knowledge to the outside, to your fellow mentees. So, by the way, the mentoring program has evolved for several years. Now, Ms. Jackie, how is the program this year different from the other, from the previous programs?
Okay, this year program has evolved. First, we have rebranded its name from just PMAP Mentorship Program to Future Leaders Program, because the rationale for this one is we want to have a pool of leaders for PMAP that will give back to the association, that are not just engaged and committed in giving back to the organization, but are well-versed in terms of the PMAP ideals, PMAP values, and objectives in advancing the HR in the Philippines. So as seen in the video earlier, so we have divided the program into 3 phases. There is educate, expose, and immerse. So it's not just attending group learning sessions or attending mentoring and coaching program, but we also we wanted that the mentees would be able to have a deeper understanding in terms of what is PMAP, what is the mission of PMAP, what are the objectives of PMAP, so that when this person leads later on PMAP, it would be aligned with what is the overall goal of PMAP.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we know that this program is really the program for succession plan of PMAP, so that we may develop future leaders of the program. And like what you said, I think one important difference is that we're now more using more learning interventions, not only within the classroom, but also outside the classroom. Okay. I will not leave you. I'll ask you another question. Since you were previously part of the program, so how was your experience as a mentee?
Yes, I was a 2017 mentee of the PMAP mentorship program, and first it widened my horizon in terms of network. I was able to be with pillars of the HR industry like Sir Obet and I'm so blessed to have a mentor coach like Sir Eric Del Castillo of Nissan, who have been very generous in terms of sharing not just his learnings about HR, but also in other aspects. So it helped me grow in terms also of my leadership skills and competencies, as during the time that I was a mentee of PMAP, that was also the transition period also that I was getting out from the HR field to the operations.
Yeah, looks like PMAP really make you stay in the HR industry, even if you're now part of the operations.
Yeah, it makes me actually still have the feel of my passion with HR.
Yes, thanks so much for that. Now to Ms. Heidi, since you have been awarded as the People Manager of the Year last 2017, how has the mentoring program helped you to achieve that award?
Well, first and foremost, at the cornerstone of my development as an HR practitioner is really the PMAP mentorship program. Because I did not come from a psychology or a law or industrial relations background. I graduated with a degree in community nutrition. Masyadong malapit, di ba? and then, when I got into HR by happenstance, by force of circumstance, it was forced upon me. Okay? I did not even like HR at that point in time. But then, the opportunity, well, it's not even the opportunity, I was forced to handle the HR function, and I know nothing about it except the fact that they process payroll and that they're always late in processing payroll and so on and so forth. And I was lucky that the president of the company then, Attorney Buddy Di Maisip, happened to be one of the pillars, but not a pillar like you because he's way older, of PMAP. And what he told me was that, Heidi, trust me. I've seen your resume and I've seen you at work. I was in operations then. And he said, believe you me, you'd be a great HR practitioner. And then he accompanied me to a general membership program, to a GMM, and pretty much fed me to the wolves. Introduced me around. The very first people whom I got an opportunity to meet were, this is my first GMM, straight to the top. Mr. Freddy Marquez, Barbie Atienza, Attorney Kimpo. So I was this newbie, very young, hanging out with all of these stalwarts of the PMAP profession. And they were the ones who told me, Heidi, we're launching PMAP mentorship program. Why don't you be part of it? And so I always contended that everything that I am today, I owe to PMAP. And specifically the PMAP leadership program. Look, without any background in HR, I talked to my mentor, Tita Puangco, and I told her that was my biggest Waterloo, so to speak. And then she said, well, we have this diploma program. Let's put that as part of your developmental program. So the 6 months for me became 2 years because it took me 2 years to complete the entire diploma program. And I had to pay my way as compared to the others who were being sponsored by their respective company. I paid my own tuition. I paid for every single program under the leadership development program that I attended because the company refused to pay for it. Because we had internal programs naman daw. And so, that really sparked a deep-seated life desire to be a lifelong learner, first and foremost, and to do that by learning from others. Okay? So at the very beginning of my career, I began to appreciate and understand the value of reaching out to people who are more experienced and more knowledgeable, no matter how different their experiences might be from you. And that's an attribute that until now I have carried. Because look, I moved to operations without, again, knowing anything about BPO operations. But then, I believe now, with my experiences, that if you are a true people champion, if you genuinely care about people, about your associates, about people that you work with, regardless of the kind of job that is handed out to you, you'll be successful. Okay? And by the way, I forgot to let everyone know that I now have another title. I'm also the interim chief HR officer of Cytel. Wow. And so there's really no backing, there's really no getting away from the HR part of the business. So very, very critical, very integral. And so every time I get to meet someone, I met someone from SGV the other day, and she wanted to be active in PMAP. I told her, it's not enough that you become a member. Because the greatest value I got from PMAP
was not out of attending GMMs. It's one of which, but it's by being active in committee work, by being active in programs that will allow you the opportunity to mingle and to learn also from co-HR practitioners even outside of the GMM. And that is very impactful. And more than anything else, apart from gaining lifelong mentors, through PMAP and the PMAP Leadership Program, I gained lifelong friends. O san ka pa? Di ba?
Yes, parang bentang-benta na yung program. Thank you for that. Basically, the mentorship program helped you not only develop your appreciation towards the field, but also spark that lifetime commitment to learn and also to develop.
Oo. Pero meron lang ako because I've seen this, no, given that I have the mic, di nyo na ako mapipigilan. No, there are many people out there who really want to serve, just like me at that point in time. My struggle then was that even though I wanted to serve, the company was not as willing. So I had to spend my own time, energy, and resources. And so if there's a way for us, I think, to make serving a little bit easier rather than a burden, to many of the members of the association and to many of the PMAP mentees, I think will be taking leaps and bounds towards really developing future leaders for PMAP.
Thank you. So we hope you can also encourage your companies to be more active in PMAP. And don't worry, there will be discounts if you attend certification programs compared to before.
Ayan, yung mga ganyan.
Meron na.
Discounts, free conference. Diba?
Yes, only if you join the mentorship program or FLP. Okay, we already have the point of view of two previous mentees. Now we'd like to take on the perspective of a mentor. So, Sir Obed, how have you been mentoring? What's the greatest reward of doing mentorship?
Well, as a mentor, first and foremost, I don't put pressure on the mentee. So in other words, I really fulfill my love, not being a tormentor, but really a brother, a father, a friend to the mentee. And the beauty of it is when I see the person after graduating from the program, that he or she is able to really do things from the heart. Because I believe without really influencing the heart of the person, there's no way for that person to be in HR. Because you cannot be in HR if you don't have the H and R in the heart. The moment that you move and take for granted those two letters, the H and the R, what remains is it, E-A-T. Meaning for me, it's more of self-centered. But doing it from the heart, I think less of me, more of you. That's why I'm here, because I love you. Thank you.
Okay, follow-up question, Sir Obed. What is your most successful mentoring experience or mentoring story?
I think every year I manage to handle minimum 2 mentees. For me, it's a cardinal sin for me to shortchange these 2 mentees. I'd rather lose myself in the process rather than losing them in the process. So modesty aside, again, I'm very happy to share with you that at the end of the process, they responded back to me, I love you too. Thank you.
And of course, Leadcom loves you too. Thank you for the years of mentorship. Now, this another question is addressed to all of you. What do you think is the competitive advantage of those who have joined the program compared to the others? Yes, Ms. Heidi.
Well, sa akin, because you learn from people who have actually done it. okay, you're able to apply the theories more effectively. Rather than just, you can go to school, right, and earn a diploma program in HR or go to one of them online courses. But you learn theories, you learn words, you learn concepts. But the beauty of the PMAP mentorship program is you get to marry those concepts with actual, realistic application, because you learn it from people who have done it already and who can teach you, who can tell you hand on heart that, hey, oo, yan yung sinasabi ng book, pero sa totoo lang iba yung nangyayari. For example, one of my most profound experiences was in managing militant labor unions. There was nothing in the handbooks that I've read that told me about how to manage them and make the union conversations, the collective bargaining agreements productive. Okay? But the people who have mentored me along the way, they were the ones who taught me how.
Thank you, Ms. Heidi. Now, Sir Oben?
I think it's important that you don't only challenge the person, either you sink or you swim. No? So I impart to them generously everything that I know, everything that I've experienced as far as the HR field is concerned. So I also equip them with tools, techniques, and strategies. Just in case the boat is sinking, what will you do? How will you do it? And most important of all, why will you do it? And in the process, they will know the answer. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And lastly,
I think the best part of the program for me is being able to see and hear firsthand the different best practices of different organizations and being able to have that exchange of knowledge of the different things that you know about HR.
Basically, learning from other people so that when that situation comes to you, you know how to address them. Okay, and for the closing questions for all of you, just a short message. Why should the people over here join our program, the Future Leaders Program? Start with you, Ms. Jackie.
Okay, please join the, really I'm promoting it, the Future Leaders Program, because really you would experience a lot of change. You're gonna have the network. If you want to deepen your understanding more in HR, if you really want to widen your network, it's in the PMAP Future Leaders Program. And give back, serve back to PMAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Heidi?
Well, for me, it's the best MBA there is. Because you actually learn on the ground from the people, as I've said, who are doing it. What more can you ask for?
It's a bold statement. And lastly, Sir Ovid.
I am inviting everyone to enroll your people and to start with to your respective staff, as in your immediate people. Because the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so to speak. So in the leadership program of PMAP, this is the one and only leadership program that you can find in the country wherein makakadaupang palad ninyo ang mga eksperto sa larangan ng pag-aalaga at pag-aaruga at pagkakalinga ng ating mga kasama sa lipunan at lalo sa ating mga kinagagalawang komunidad. Because in the process, by being part of the LeadCom, definitely you will be inspired. Because I believe without inspiration, you will never be ever be motivated. And having this motivation will give you that turbo power so that you're able to sustain your profession and more importantly, doing your mission with a purpose anchored on why God puts you there. And why are you in the midst of people? Because I believe having inspiration, motivation, And the tuber power will give you that sustainability. And sustainability will lead you to become agile in terms of quality service, in terms of speed, and accuracy. That's all, folks. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. So what more can we ask for, right? So through PMAP, we'll be able to appreciate the field of HR as a form of driver towards the business. And not only that, we'll be able to create networks, and lastly, we'll be able to grow with PMAP. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And we hope that all of you will join our Future Leaders program. Please send, if you're interested, please send your CV to juni.salud@pmap.org.ph. Currently, we already have 26 mentees and 16 mentors. Wow, right? And we're looking forward for more. Thank you for those who are already sent their CVs. And you may send your CVs until April 10. So that's basically it. We look forward to you being part of FLP, and let's have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists.
Please visit the Workbank booth outside near the registration area to find out more about this latest talent solutions tool. You may even take home a prize. All it takes is a booth visit. Workbank, let's invest in you. May we call on stage Ms. Lynn Mukhi, FPM, trustee in charge of the Branding and Communications Committee, to present People Manager Magazine's March issue.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. For those who have stayed until this very end, you get a reward for having stayed on, and you get to be the first people to see the March issue, the digital issue of our People Manager magazine. As I shared last January, we do a print issue quarterly. February and March are digital issues. So in keeping with Women's Month and Women's Empowerment, we have a lineup of fantastic articles which would surely help you. And because this is offered online, it's not just for you, but it's for the employees in your companies, it's for your friends, for the women out there who feel the burdens of leadership and feel overwhelmed many days. There's an article that talks about how we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, contributed by Learning and OD Manager Shane Rapanut of the FINMA Group of Companies. We encourage each one of you to please contribute your articles, and most importantly, to advertise as well. Okay, hold the screen right there. It's not just about personal sharing, but we also have conceptual frameworks that you can take away and use as teaching points in your organizations. So earlier today, we had Ms. Chiki Go of Mansmith talk to us. We're sharing here the results of our CEO and CHRO collaboration forum, showing how HR could be the next CEO, the Chief Execution Officer, as attested by distinguished CEOs from several organizations. So please, how do you access this? If you have your smartphones with you right now, just look up peoplemanager.ph. I can show that to you as we go along. All right. Get onto your browser and put in there peoplemanager.ph. Right. I need our assistant there to show. Yeah, that's it. Okay. You have it on your smartphones. Do you see it? peoplemanager.ph, and it brings you right onto the site, and you can access the issues from March as well as those issues and articles from February of this year. All right. Got it? Okay, thank you very much, and we look forward to receiving your contributions, articles. Tell us about what's happening in your companies. Send in your photos, peoplemanager.ph. We make it a service for you from PMAP to empower you and your companies as well as your employees. Thank you very much.
What's up? What's next? GMM April to June 2019. Let's watch this. 44th General Membership Meeting, may we call back on stage President Jerry A. Plana, DPM.
Good afternoon. Before I bang the bell for adjournment, can I just say a few words? I'm tempted to contribute to the discussion about the LeadCom. You know, one of the best definitions I got about leadership is this. Leaders are not responsible for results. They are responsible for the people who deliver the results. I think it's a very important definition because it just puts us into the right focus, like eyes on the ball. Where's the ball? The ball is on people. I just wanted to say that when you take a look at LeadCom, I think one of the greatest benefits of LeadCom in PMAP is this. The best training we can ever get for leadership is when we're given the opportunity to lead volunteers. There's no better way to test our capabilities for leadership than when you're given that opportunity to lead the volunteer. Because if you can do that well, you can lead anybody. So I think if there's a greatest takeaway for LeadCom, that is it. And it is one program where we're really applying the 70-20-10 rule, isn't it? 10%, there's classroom, there's a lot of mentoring that reflects on experiences, so the 70-20-10 is really there. So I'd like everyone, another second pitch, join, support the LeadCom. I think this is I'd like to take a look at PMAP as the greatest leadership training ground that we can all have at our disposal. Thank you very much, and I want now to adjourn the 644th General Membership Meeting.